Look, I could have done better. Oh, I'm so glad I was at least aware of God and weathered the storm. But I think I could have handled the storm if I'd remembered non-violent communication. And I didn't. I haven't even looked at the book I've got for some weeks now. I'm out of practice by default. I should have expressed, not, if you like, the blatant love of God for him. I think in his fury that would have just added fuel to his frustration. But I think, I'm not sure. I mean, your opinion may be otherwise, but what I could have done as an alternative, but nonetheless done something, is shown verbal empathy with what he was saying. In other words, when he said something, whether it was true or not, as a reality, it's more his historicity, his view, which is greatly coloured, of course, by what he is and his lack of the awareness of the love of God. Quite simply, in everyday terms, I mean, he doesn't believe in God. Or at least the God he has believed in has been pretty torturous. And he hasn't really believed in, I don't know what it is, but, well, I do. So I should have simply responded with repeating back to him, I mean, genuinely, you're feeling at the present so-and-so, aren't you? He would have said, yes, because such and such, so-and-so, they've done so-and-so. And then he would have said something else that I or someone else had done wrong in the organisation. But mainly what someone else had done wrong, but he did have a passing shot at me once or twice. I didn't flinch, of course. I just took it that this was a troubled mind, poor soul. And it is that, you see. He's experiencing this trouble precisely because he needs to experience it. And he's in it in full flow and flood of words and anger. And let me say, he's right, because he should be angry given his view. It's just that his view could be utterly different. It could be, for instance, that God is teaching him something about evil, good and bad, and that he's learnt all the more, all the clearer, what he values and what he doesn't. And this is a great advantage and blessing to him. It's a lesson. And in some sense, a lesson is not the reality of the world. It's an experience that teaches you truth about the world. And truth about the world is incredible blessing, because the truth is what you come to hold is good and what you come to hold is bad. In other words, the effect it has on your values. You become much clearer what you value and what you reject. And that's very good, because it means you know the way to go. And as regards his relationship with you, that is what God is interested in. rescuing you into knowing him. Goodness. All that is good. All that you truly value. And need to value for life eternal. The difference between good and evil. And which way you're going to go, always. For eternity. He's training us for heaven. That's very good. So if you knew the blessing that was going on, if he had known the blessing of this experience concerning this organization and his part of it or his knowledge of it, experience of it, if he knew the blessing that God is giving him, he wouldn't be furious. He'd simply be very clear on what he values and what he doesn't. How wonderful. You see, there would be no anger. There would only be enlightenment. Adding to the enlightenment he already has as to what's good and what's bad in the world. Not frustrated that the world is going to be eternally like this. Well, it's going to be an eternal mix of good and evil, yes. That's because it's teaching us to great purpose. Training us for heaven. How wonderful. So we are attentive and eager to learn the lesson. And thankful for the lesson. Not frustrated and furious. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. So I too should have been majorly aware of that. I was majorly aware of God in the situation and hoping that it would somehow level off. But I should have been aware that this is a great lesson to me. I suppose I was in some way. This chap is troubled within. If he really knew the love and kindness of God, he wouldn't be venting at the present about the evil he feels he's come across. He would be, well, quite literally thanking God for the teaching, for it makes him clearer as to what he treasures in his relationship with God and what he would reject and would not have anything to do with. Distinguishing then between good and bad. But of course, not being able to relate it to the goodness of God, he's venting at the frustration of its existence, this historicity of the events that he's experiencing in his mind. And he wants to wipe it out with all his strength, of course. Because he's the victim in some sense of not being able to put it right. And it's all not what it should be. Instead of saying, that's indeed not what I value. Thank God we have the love and goodness of God. But he doesn't think that because he's not privy to at present this love of God. And if he were, he couldn't choose it. It would be compulsory if he were aware of the goodness of God. He's aware of the evil and how much he doesn't like it. And that's impressing on his mind deeply and eternally what he will have nothing to do with. It's not the reality, it's simply his view of the lesson. The lesson is indeed that he might reject the bad. But not violently, not as a frustration of, if only I could destroy this, but as simply a recognition, yes, how much more do I value integrity and goodness and good intent, the goodness of God. And you see, he would be residing in that awareness, rather than just in the experiencing of the existence of bad, and putting his mind ever to all that's wrong and bad in it. And of course his imagination's running wild with him, it's getting worse and worse. And in a sense, of course, that experience is right for him, because it's going to make him overwhelmingly long for the good. And realize in his heart that's what he values, the good. He's focused at the minute just on how much he does not value the bad. And in his recognition of such, he wants to utterly obliterate anything that's to do with it, including me in front of him in a way. Except that I don't quite fit the mould, thank goodness. I'm not arguing with him. I'm not contradicting him. I'm just letting him vent because he needs to. And that's different. So I did contribute something, I think, I trust. But I wonder I could have done better by remembering my lack of training in nonviolent communication. That's Marshall Rosenberg, if you want to check it on YouTube, and you might well be blessed by doing so. I should have mirrored back to him an empathy for his frustration and what he finds so evil in it. Rather than resisted what he's struggling to cope with. But follow some of the NVC training for yourself. I think you'll find it a blessing. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.